Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak on my motion thanking His Excellency the President for his most gracious speech. Mr. Speaker, I was glad to hear near universal praise for the government's effort to keep Fiji COVID contained. That credit is owed to the early and decisive action we took, our unwavering respect for the science, and to the diligence of our frontline officials. But the nation needs more than words of gratitude. Every member of this parliament can show that they really, truly care about keeping COVID contained by downloading the Care Fiji mobile application on our phones. It is a simple test of sincerity. Mr. Speaker, there are those, like those in government, who advocate for this potentially life-saving application. And there are those on the other side of Parliament who attack it, who harp about it, who complain about it. Our doctors, our nurses, and other frontline officials see that distinction quite clearly. We need to embrace every COVID fighting tool at our disposal, whether it's PPE, whether it's testing kits, vaccines, or contact tracing apps like Care Fiji. In the United States, Mr. Speaker, they played the same political football with face masks. Look where they ended up. Let's not make the same mistakes here at home, and instead come together to keep Fijians safe and healthy. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by making clear about what happened this week. The former leader of the opposition did not sacrifice his seat for anyone. He abandoned his post. He left his party, and as a parting gift, Mr. Speaker, he left SODELPA's leadership bitterly divided. And those of you left in this parliament who are still praising him, even after his departure, should do the honorable thing. Leave SODELPA and join the party he has proposed. Of course, Mr. Speaker, the same goes for the members of the NFP, who lets themselves to the... The same goes for the members of the NFP who lets themselves to the former leader's hip on their so-called listening tour. You had no problem. You had no problem casting your lot with him then. If you had any principles or an ounce of dignity, you'd follow him out of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the now former leader of the opposition left this Parliament with a plea for bipartisanship. His former party members had the chance to choose his successor in line with that principle. Unfortunately, that sentiment didn't survive through the tea break. After years of demanding government work with them, SODELPA showed us how sincere they are about being bipartisan by shutting the door of their deliberation in the NFP's face. Honorable Prasad ran to the Fiji Times saying that the NFP had no say in choosing the next leader of the opposition. So much for bipartisanship, Mr. Speaker. Order. Mr. Speaker, the D in SODELPA may stand for democratic, but they have given us ample reason to wonder if they really care about democracy at all, or even understand what it is. The party appears not to have any unifying or defining principle. They demand government work with them, but they don't even work with themselves. They don't work with each other or their fellow opposition members. And their contributions this week are just like their party. Melodramatic, fanciful, and in the end, empty. Empty of ideas, empty of facts, and empty of principles, but still full of contradictions and hypocrisy, without a shred of consistency. They are, Mr. Speaker, quite simply, a party of pretenders. Honorable Kepa, this week, in a reply, had quoted from the Fiji Times. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to quote from the Fiji Times. And I quote from last week's Fiji Times by a gentleman called Jen Nisar, who put it best. And I quote, "SODELPA is based on everything that is fake." The fundamental problem is too many chiefs and not enough Indians. The 28 constituencies based on province and tribalism does not help at all. The problems are so clear and obvious, but the members appear to be blind to them. One problem, which I did not mention previously, is that the party is based on everything that is fake. Fake prayers and fasting, fake belief that they have solutions to Fiji's problems, fake sense of self-importance and entitlement, fake belief that they are leaders, fake belief that they are God-fearing and religious, fake acceptance of Tambua and Sevu Sevu while pretending to uphold traditions, pretending to be multiracial and being served by false prophets. The party is full of pretenders and those who are in denial, every one of them. The party president, the general secretary, and the newly elected leader must be constantly looking over their shoulders. Not only that, through fake ideas, last AGM, where nothing was achieved after months of drama. The drama continues today, and we all expect that they will continue in future. And he believes, Jen Nisar believes, not even God can fix this. Which of the above is not true, Mr. Speaker? Why is this party still around draining taxpayers' money? Imagine if this fake party forms a government. And amongst all of this, they wear the SODELPA branded clothes as a fake badge of honor and looking silly. How embarrassing. I have called them a Mickey Mouse party before, and I was not far off the mark. That is, unquote, that is, Mr. Speaker, from a gentleman, from Jen Nisar, and I was quoting from the Fiji Times. Mr. Speaker, being fake in itself is bad enough. But what Bulanauda spent his time ranting about this week was far worse than fake. Honorable Bulanauda spent his time ranting about this week was far worse than fake. It was a very obvious slap in the face to this Parliament and shameless disrespect for His Excellency the President. He burst forth with lie after lie, each one more reprehensible than the last. I ask myself, Mr. Speaker, when Honorable Bulanauda looks in the mirror, what does he see? Does he really believe the venomous nonsense he spewed on the floor of the Parliament? Or does he know he lies? Or does he simply see a man who will not dare repeat those charges outside this chamber, where he is coddled by the protection of parliamentary privilege? I think he knows he's lying, because the alternative is that he is delusional and possibly insane. All you have to do is listen to his rant in his reply. I would urge the leader of his party to set him straight. A coward he is. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm having a hard time figuring out who is actually leading Sodelpa. Or appropriately, more appropriately, who's calling the shots? Is it Honorable Ngaboka? Or is it Honorable Lalambalam? Or is it Honorable Kepa? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this may be the first time in a Westminster democracy where the leader of the largest opposition party who is sitting in Parliament as an elected member is not actually the leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, their cloak and dagger leadership struggle may be entertaining for some, but we are really worried. We in this Parliament don't want to waste precious time. We in this Parliament don't want to waste precious time distracted by the Sodelpa show. The Fijian people deserve a democracy of substantive contributions by the government and by a healthy opposition. They deserve constructive, intellectual, and fact-based debate. And that is not what they are getting. Mr. Speaker, the members opposite can change that by organizing themselves and focusing on what they have been sent here to do, which includes providing principal leadership. Mr. Speaker, last week, the Fiji Independent Institution Against Corruption, Voreqe, charged 7 members of Parliament with claiming money they were not entitled to take. Claiming money they were not entitled to take. 6 of them, Mr. Speaker, are still in this House. 6 are still in this House. How embarrassing is that? Fiji First MP Vijendra Prakash had the dignity. Fiji First MP Vijendra Prasad had the dignity to step down and put the sanctity of Parliament first in our young democracy. Because he understood. Because he understood what it means to be a member of Parliament and the need to maintain high standards of behavior. And I call on Honorable Matani Tumbua, Honorable Randondo, Honorable Rusaba, Honorable Nawekula, Honorable Wasanimbolo, and Honorable Yoni Baravi. Follow Mr. Prakash's example. Do the honorable thing and step down and step out. Mr. Speaker, in their quest for political traction, the resigned and current leader of the opposition pushed for pardons for those responsible for the deadly events of 2000 that sought to upend the rule of law and overthrow a democratically elected government. We all know why. Because they are all in the same gang. All that ended up in the deaths of 6 patriot Fijians, 2 policemen and 4 soldiers. But I must tell you, Honorable Speaker, when it comes to the application of the law, we trust the courts to render independent judgment and, if necessary, assign appropriate punishment. A fair judiciary applies the law to all equally. If someone is responsible for a serious crime, they are held accountable. As I've said, during the events of 2000, all of this ended up in the deaths of 6 patriot Fijians. They were murdered, they were killed by the same group of people. It may feel like some time ago for all of us, but that is not so for the families of the fallen. And I do not endorse anything less than equal treatment under the law, regardless of status, titles, or political power or connection for those responsible. Honorable Lalambalawu talked about the Mataningasau, Honorable Speaker. I don't know who was here to accept that Mataningasau. but who was responsible for putting that Mataninga South together. But I remember very clearly that I had asked the former president, His Excellency Ratulelo, not to attend the Mataninga South, because it is all a farce. We all know what that is. Honorable Speaker, a comic, dramatic work using buffoonery and horseplay. That Mataninga South is not genuine, it's fake. That is where those matters are decided in the Mercy Commission established under the Constitution before any recommendation made to His Excellency the President. Mr. Speaker, in the brief moments when the members of SEDALPA were looking to stab each other in the back, they were looking backwards. Honorable Charlie, who I thought was supposed to be an educated man, in his response suggested the Ngolingoli area should be governed exclusively by individual landowning units. I asked Honorable Charlie to look back to 2006. Look back to 2006, when the then Garase government proposed such legislation. Again, purely for political posturing and gain. He's doing that so he can gain mileage from the Itoke, because it sounds nice, the idea that we are going to own our Ngolingoli. He doesn't seem to realize that we had not been given the ownership of Ngolingoli for the 100 years. It's for one reason. He doesn't seem to realize that. But he should think back. He should look back to 2006. The tourism industry fought it because they knew it meant the industry would collapse because of the uncertainty and instability it would have created. People come to Fiji to see our beaches and explore our reefs. Without any guarantee that our waters and beaches could be visited, disputes over Ngolingoli boundaries and subjective, inconsistent rates that would be charged to give access to Ngolingoli areas, amongst other things, would have seen investor confidence fall through the floor. We would have given up all those jobs and lost all that income, all for the sake of a disjointed, unproductive, and ethically weighted system of ocean management that ultimately come at the expense of our economy and every Fijian, including our resource owners themselves. We are seeing right now, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing right now what a collapsing tourism industry has done for Fiji with COVID-19. With so many people out of work and on reduced hours, Honorable Charlie would seriously have the nation self-inflict the same wound we suffer from COVID-19. For the sake of over 100,000 Fijians employed in our tourism sector, we will not entertain his short-sightedness. Instead, we will continue with a compensation system that has been provided within a legal framework that has withstood the test of time. We must all understand that our ocean is one connected resource. Without consistent management, we cannot succeed in protecting our marine ecosystems from degradation. Mr. Speaker, we will soon launch a national ocean policy that charts our course towards 100% sustainable management of every square kilometer of Fijian waters, with 30% declared as marine protected areas. Government will lead the effort because it is too big for any single community to do so. We will lead it because every Fijian and our children and our grandchildren should know the beauty and bounty of our ocean ecosystems and that we will protect our way of life. Mr. Speaker, we should not let SODELPA's drama drive us backwards from that vision, nor should we let it distract us from the most stunning admission we heard this week, which of course came from Honorable Prasad. After demeaning His Excellency's gracious address, it has become a repugnant habit of his and some other opposition members opposition MPs. I quote, he summed up his political agenda saying, and I quote, "What would we do differently than the government?" The answer is everything, unquote. That's what he said. Honorable Prasad, everything, Mr. Speaker, that was his answer. For years, we've been waiting for the NFP to actually offer up some ideas. And this is the game plan they finally give us. They would do everything differently than the government. Mr. Speaker, that's not a plan. That's what a child says when they are throwing a tantrum because they did not get their way. I suppose it doesn't matter if what the government is doing is working. It doesn't matter if the policy is sound. It doesn't matter if it makes life better for people. Honorable Prasad told us if the government does it, he opposes it. Mr. Speaker, that right there is why people cannot stand politicians like Honorable Prasad. It is cynicism of the highest order. But as he bangs his feet and throws another fit, we will keep fighting for the Fijian people. But say we let the proverbial toddler have his way, Mr. Speaker, let's think about what would happen if we indeed change everything. The government has closed the borders to keep people safe from COVID-19. Does Honorable Prasad think we should open them up? The government has delivered free education for all Fijians. Does Honorable Prasad think we should toss it away? The government is assisting micro, small and medium businesses and out-of-work Fijians through this crisis. Does Honorable Prasad think we should scrap that support? How about the seawalls we have built? And should we erase the Bainimarama boom? Honorable Chikondondua, which gave access to free water, subsidized electricity, and other essential services. I have told Honorable Chikondondua in one of the former sessions what the Bainimarama boom is all about. This is the Bainimarama boom. Remember, Honorable Chikondondua, when they fixed your road to your farm? That's the Bainimarama boom. Should we cut the tap for every Fijian community we given access to clean water? Should we turn off the lights in the communities that can access electric power for the first time? Should we demolish the roads we have built? Should we take away the subsidized bus fares for school children, pensioners, and welfare recipients? Should we bring back higher income taxes for Fijian families? Should we stop supporting the sugar industry with the historic stimulus that have provided to lift the cost burden of the shoulders of our cane farmers? What more, Honorable Prasad and Honorable Chikondondua and Honorable Garangara Tambua? Should we do away with Fijian-made brand we imagined and we have built? How about the payment of pensioners to our retirees who never had the Provident Fund account? But everybody's got their heads down. They should be looking at me and listening to what I'm telling, because everyone is benefiting from this. Now, we want to change order. And when Fijians are injured in accidents through no fault of their own, should we tell them, sorry, Honorable Biman Prasad said we should not have the Accident Compensation Commission of Fiji to provide you with financial assistance without having to go through a long, and costly legal process. And how about our work towards net zero emissions? To safeguard our oceans, to lay the groundwork for an inclusive economic recovery. Mr. Speaker, that is what the government is doing. And if the government is doing it, Honorable Prasad says you would not do it. That is his position. He told us himself. Mr. Speaker, the Fijian people deserve better than theatrics and tantrums. We are in a crisis. A global pandemic is raging. Our people are suffering. The planet is warming and our oceans are being degraded. And we must be wary of any greenwashing in this parliament for political gain, such as Honorable Ngerengere Tambua, who keeps attacking our dedicated civil servants in the Ministry of Environment by quoting from the same wrong website, even after the ministry has already stated and published that it's not the official website. Like her leader, Honorable Ngerengere Tambua does not let facts get in the way of a desperate bid to be seen as a...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
All right, take it easy.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
I can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I can hear you.
Mr. Speaker,
you don't have to remind me. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honourable Prime Minister is misleading Parliament.
No.
I have spoken about this, if he's calling it a fake website, it should be taken down. Misleading Parliament. Misleading Parliament is the point of order, Mr. Speaker. That is the point of order. Thank you.
You have the floor.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, she quoted from that fake account.
Then take it down.
Mr. Speaker.
It's not out. How can you take it down? Understand?
Understand, please. Shush.
Order.
Shush. Mr. Speaker, the duty of care we owe the people is precious, and that applies to both those in and outside of this parliament, including those trying to wade back into politics like scorned lovers, hoping to turn this global crisis into their political comeback story. The country may be vulnerable right now, but take a hint. She's just not that into you. Mr. Speaker, I could nitpick through every falsehood we heard this week, but I won't waste the people's time. It is obvious to anyone watching that the government in waiting is the furthest thing capable of running the show. They are not here for genuine debate. They simply see politics as a way to protect their power. For them, this is all a numbers game. They say what they say, not because it is true, and not because they actually believe it, but because they think it will win them votes. That's the bottom line. And this season, Mr. Speaker, this session has shown how desperate and frankly dangerous some of them have become. Very dangerous. Even so, Mr. Speaker, I do not believe the most serious challenges the Fijians face are political. The NFP's ignorance and SODELPA's pettiness are surely bad, but they will not kill us. The threat they pose pales in comparison to the real issues. The rising seas, the deadly coronavirus, the oceans crisis, our ailing economy, and the sixth mass extinction event that is already underway. My opponents can blame the government for those life or death issues all they like, but we should not fall for those distractions. We have much work to do. Good times and bad, this government has stood by the Fijian people. It does not matter to me if you voted for us or not. We fight just as hard for your future. Climate change, Mr. Speaker, does not play political favorites. Neither does COVID-19, and neither do we. Since my first day as Prime Minister, I have committed to the service of every Fijian. My ministers serve every Fijian equally, no matter who they are, where they live in Fiji. If you are on the front lines of sea level rise, we will work as quickly as we can to help you adapt. If you are in the path of an incoming cyclone, we will do everything possible to warn you and reach you. If you are a Fijian citizen, we are working to realize all of your civil, political, and socio-economic constitutional rights. If you take the initiative to develop your community, adapt your community, or support your young people and women, we will do what we can to support you. That is our character as a government. That is who we always have been, and that is who we always will be. Mr. Speaker, we are only 2 weeks away from Christmas. In most places in the world, medical experts recommend people do not spend time with their families, particularly elderly family members, given the risk of COVID-19. We in Fiji, Mr. Speaker, are grateful to be in good health. We are grateful for the precious time we can spend with our loved ones. But we know this Christmas will still be a hard one for many families. Plans have been scaled back, and purchases may have been put off for those most severely affected by this pandemic. For those who are in a position to do so, I urge you to find the spirit of giving this holiday. If you are buying gifts, buy Fijian made, buy Fijian crafted. Support our local entrepreneurs. Help those businesses who need it by purchasing their products and services, like the beautiful Fijian made ties I've been wearing all week. And if you can afford to do so, I urge to take advantage of our Love Our Local specials. Excuse me. Book a local vacation. Support our tourism operators. Help keep Fijians employed through the holidays. And in your communities, look out for those who need a helping hand. The Christmas holiday signifies the birth of Jesus Christ. While on earth, Christ lived as a man who put the most vulnerable before all others. And that is the example we must strive to honor above all else this holiday. Mr. Speaker, I wish you all, and everybody in this Parliament, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and blessed New Year. As we look to put a difficult 12 months behind us, let us keep our eyes on the horizon, on opportunity, on our potential as a country. The struggles we have endured are immense, but they will not define us. Mr. Speaker, Fiji will come back, and we will do it together. I fully support the motion and urge all members of Parliament to thank His Excellency the President for his most gracious speech. God bless you all, and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
I thank the